Welcome back to the Pregnancy Help Podcast powered by Heartbeat International. This is Marketing Minute, our monthly segment focused on practical marketing strategies for pregnancy help organizations. I'm Delaney, manager of Extend Web Services, and I'm joined today by Extend's digital advertising specialist, Jack, and IT and cybersecurity consultant, Tim Stevens, to dive deeper into the world of AI and how it is impacting your reach and marketing. Tim, Jack, how are you guys doing today?
Doing great. How are you doing, Delaney?
I'm good. I'm like ready to tackle this. This is month 3 of AI podcasts, and I think we've got a really good discussion set up for today. Tim, we didn't scare you away last month. You came back.
It was close, but I'm here.
Well, I appreciate it. So 2 months ago, Monet and I introduced practical ways for you, the listeners, to use AI without losing your organization's voice, trust, or credibility. Last month, I pelted Tim with questions, and he shared about AI privacy, security, and best practices when using tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude. This month, Jack, Tim, and I are going to discuss AEO and GEO, how to increase your visibility in the age of AI, and marketing with AI. So let's dive in. And it's possible you already know what AEO and GEO stands for, or you may be someone who has just now come to the acceptance that you need to care about your website's SEO. Regardless, let's all get on the same page. So Tim, AEO, GEO, SEO, please explain. Give us an understanding, just like let's hit a base level understanding of what each of them are and kind of how they're interacting.
Well, SEO is probably not a term that folks are unfamiliar with at this point. For a long time, SEO was just this confusing, acronym that no one knew what it meant. For those that don't, it stands for search engine optimization, and it's the practice of tackling your digital presence in a way that search engines will display you in relevant searches. Ideally, high on the first page to get visitors that are searching for information that you can provide or service you can provide, get you in front of them so that they can engage with you. Recently, terms like AEO and GEO have come around, and those are both AI related. So AEO is answer engine optimization. That is, if you've done recent Google searches, you will have seen an AI overview at the top of most of your searches, particularly for informational type searches, questions and the like. And that is a AI generated overview of everything. It's kind of put together. A lot of it's going to be referencing what's already on that first page. So it's just a summary kind of deal. GEO is generative engine optimization. And that is more, that's being mentioned by the actual AI agent. So if you are talking to ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, any of those, it's the actual effort of having yourself or your organization be a credible source that they're actually going to reference in those conversations with visitors and users. They are different things, but they're starting to blur together a little bit more, and we can touch on that a little bit later. I don't want to go too far into the weeds, but that's the general, that's the gist of what they are.
Okay. And obviously, like you said, people are probably familiar with SEO. For AEO and GEO, what is getting your information there? And I know this is something both you and Jack have had experience in, like looking at and dealing with, like what is it that's making you more or less likely to appear in those results?
So something to keep in mind is that both AEO and GEO are intertwined with SEO. Really, the foundational things for both AEO and GEO are the same foundational things that good SEO has been doing for several years now. So some of the stuff is going to be pointing at having your content on your website laid out in a way where there's a very specific question that you're answering. Having it a bit more conversational, having things that just fit well into what people are actually searching for, rather than just, big bulk content that's keyword stuffed and whatnot, things that worked, maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago. So while they are new terms and slightly new concepts, they're all built on the same idea of, search engine optimization, putting your best foot forward as far as your content, the structure of your site, and your other marketing agencies online.
You've got a couple follow-up questions. One is a little tongue-in-cheek. You said it's been like good SEO practice for several years now. And so I know that you've been doing this for a while, Tim. I don't know if you said several years now because what counts as good SEO practices like changes every few years. And so for the past several years, it's the same thing. Or if you have just forgotten how long good SEO has been around and it's been more like, more than several years. What's going on there?
Well, yeah, SEO is always changing. I mean, anything related to IT is changing. Digital marketing is not a exception to that. So while it's always changing, some of the foundational things have not. Good content is always, going to be king. And when you're looking at, trying to appear well in the AEO and the GEO stuff, really, it's looking at good, trustworthy, authoritative content. It's looking for things where it's not obvious, just, again, that keyword stuff kind of deal. It's not looking for things that they just have as much content as possible, as much AI generated content or human generated, however it comes, as possible. That's not really the way to go. It is about having very consistent, authoritative content with clean structure, good citations, consistency across the board, technical health, meaning it can kind of fact check your stuff as you go along and make sure it's actually matching, what's out there. That's the kind of thing that's feeding the AI answers, the AI overviews, as well as the actual AI agents that people are going to interact with. That'll feed them with good information.
Okay. So when you said, putting your best foot forward or a good foot forward, that's what you're talking about, is having content on your website that is structured in the way you just listed.
Yeah, so not just the text content, but there's some back end stuff, which again, I don't want to go too far into the weed, but as we're talking about structured data on your site, having appropriate SEO things, just even meta tags and information, having appropriate alt image tags, all the stuff that kind of goes into general SEO that can benefit it, but really it does come down to content. Content is king. And making sure that you are a good, authoritative, trustworthy source on it.
No, that makes sense. Jack, is there anything that we've talked about so far that you're wanting to jump in on and talk about? Are you feeling good?
Feeling good, but I will say I agree with what Tim is talking about in terms of I would say there's even a more heightened importance to have strong SEO in the age of AI overviews when people are searching for things now. With the introduction of the AI overview, the AI is essentially scouring to see if you are a trustworthy and authoritative source of information and a trustworthy and authoritative organization. So having great content, relative authoritative content on your website is going to be even more important now. And also building out those trust signals across the digital landscape. So having local search listings with positive reviews, having active Facebook accounts, having active Instagram accounts to be able to show the AI that you are a trusted, legitimate organization. So it's no longer the case where you can just throw a bunch of money at Google Ads and automatically appear at top in the search rankings. You still will have to pay for your ads on Google, obviously, but now you have to focus as well on making sure that you really have a strong SEO strategy and that you're building out these trust signals across the digital landscape, because that will essentially help you to appear in the AI overview or have a higher probability of doing so.
I like terminology like trust signals, because even if you are new to SEO or this just isn't your area of expertise, I feel like that's something that's easier to like grasp hold of and be like, okay, so what I'm looking for are these trust signals. Like you said, like, what do your reviews look like? Is your information up to date on a variety of like sites? Like if I go on Yelp or Bing or wherever I am, like, am I seeing the same information? That is really, really helpful. So we do know that like when things like this happen, where it's like suddenly like, not that SEO stopped being important, but there's like a new emphasis on like, it's really going to help you in the age of AI. Sometimes we see I don't know, more of an emphasis placed on certain marketing tactics or old, products kind of being uh, re-wrapped and or like just repositioned or something as like you need this product to help you do this thing. And so something that I'm curious about, and Tim, you might be able to speak to this, but if somebody's being pushed a new marketing tactic that will help them appear in the AEO and GEO results, how do they know if they're getting a good service?
You're going to want someone that's going to talk about, the outcomes of it, not just, oh, it's this new exciting thing. You want to say, okay, how is this going to translate into leads, calls, appointments? Boosting your ranking is great. Boosting your traffic is great. Don't get me wrong. That typically can lead to those things. But really you want to talk about, okay, how does this convert folks into, phone calls, into chats, contact form submissions, visits to the center? How does it get us actually engaged with the, women and men and families that are looking for our services?
Yeah.
So you're going to want that. You're going to want someone that, gives you access to things. So, you want to be able to see your Google Analytics or maybe your Search Console, see some reports on, maybe your Google business profile, ads, social media reports, all that kind of stuff. You want someone that's going to be transparent with how things are going. And you want to get that nailed down before you actually move forward with it. And, you're going to want something that, when you're interacting with someone, it's great to actually interact with the person that's going to be servicing the account some. You don't only want to interact with the salesperson. Salespeople are great and whatnot, but sometimes it's nice to actually get to know the person that is going to be handling those month-to-month reports for you, handling the service for you, talk to them a little bit, and you can ask some more, direct questions of those folks. So I would say transparency is the biggest deal, and then understanding what the end results are going to be. Those are two of the bigger things you want to look at.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I really appreciate you going into all those different details of like things they could look out for. And something I'll add to it based on like what you said, Tim, is this is why I think it's so important just to know your baseline data before you start working with anybody or you start, a new marketing tactic. Know where you're at right now when it comes to your unique client visits or your abortion minded, abortion vulnerable clients who are coming in. Know where you're at with that information before you start something. And then that gives you a baseline for like, you've been working with somebody for 3 months, you've been trying a new tactic for 3 months. There's not always a direct correlation. Some things are a little difficult to see, but there should be, like, if you're pushing hard on something, especially if you're putting money behind something, you should be able to see some kind of movement if you're hitting it the right way. And I know that's something, Jack, that you and I have talked a lot about when it comes to, like, say, Google ads, making sure that when you're in alignment with what somebody's trying to do, and then two, that if you have money going towards certain ad products and stuff or ad campaigns, that you're seeing results, or maybe you need to pivot in a different direction. I do want to dive a little bit more into what we're seeing with AI. But first, when we talk about like a multi-level online presence, are there certain things that are more important than they once were? I know we've touched on reviews, I know we've touched on like listings and stuff, but is there something that when we're looking at those trust signals that maybe people, I don't know, it's maybe collecting dust on the shelf. It's something that they haven't considered as much, but in this new age with AEO and GEO, it might be important to brush something off and add it to that multi-level online presence.
Having a website is going to be, of course, the most foundational thing. So that's going to be usually that's going to be the, end point for people as far as interacting with you digitally. At that point, they're going to, reach out, phone call, visit you, email or whatever. But all the other things are typically going to tie in and direct towards that website. So you want to have that optimized, not just for organic traffic, which means, being found in the general search results, and to a degree that's, the AI overview stuff. But you want to make sure that, if you're putting together ad campaigns, if you're putting together social media campaigns, anything like that, that it's not just a nice, flashy, beautiful ad that gets them somewhere that isn't relevant anymore, that isn't,
Yeah.
going to actually serve them how they should be served, and get them into to chat with you. So the number one thing for your online presence is going to be your website. After that, some of it's going to depend, I think, on what your goals are. If you are looking for some immediate growth and some immediate,
Hmm.
contacts and conversions, you can look at the paid routes. I think, going with something like Google Ads and different things, and Jack can speak a lot more to that than I can, but that would be very good. Whereas you can look at some other things that are more long term. They won't be that immediate. It's not like turning on a faucet like ads can be, but
Hmm.
some of that long term growth and long term authoritative establishment for you. You can look at doing SEO on your website and the AEO, GEO, of course, as
Yeah.
it relates to that. You can do things like, your local business listings. And again, Jack can speak more of that than I can, but interacting with all of your different, avenues where people could find you, um, that's not just a paid resource, is going to be something that typically lasts, maybe not indefinitely, but lasts
Hmm.
quite a while. That also means it takes a while for them to actually show their impact, though.
Yeah, that makes sense. But Jack, I do want to ask you questions about Google Ads before we pivot back to AI and marketing. But first, guys, when it comes to having authoritative content on your website, what determines if what you're putting on your website is authoritative, if it's credible, if it's something that AI and the AEO and the GEO, they determine that it has value and worth? Like what I know we touched on it a little bit. Sometimes it's how you structure it and stuff. But if somebody's looking, they're like, no, we want to add some content to our website. And maybe they're doing it in-house. Is there any tips that we can give in that situation?
Yeah, I think so. In terms of the authoritative content, I think,
Mhm.
obviously having citations to any claims that you're making, medically speaking, I think that is huge. And those are the signals that the AI is automatically going to be looking for and referencing because it wants to make sure that you are a trustworthy, authoritative source.
Mhm.
And also really making sure that you're doing a good job of explaining what your services are and the value and the benefit that clients are going to get from your services, because those will ultimately, that can ultimately be linked to, what people are saying about you online. So people are talking about you in the reviews, talking about
Mhm.
the services that they were able to receive at your center. You want to make sure that that's linked and referenced on your website, because that builds on another block of that trust signal for the AI to understand and to reference, and that in turn boosts your authority, because it's validating what you are saying that you're offering, and it's also validating like the quality as well. So, yeah, super important to make sure that the content on your website is clear and you're
Mhm.
really going deep in explaining what you offer and the benefits of that as well.
Okay. We've talked about sources a couple of times so far on this podcast, and I just want to make sure we hit this. When we're talking about like things that they can link to support what they're saying on their site, we're following the same rules we all learned in like high school and middle school, right? Of like the content that or like the source you're linking to needs to have like greater authority than what you have in yourself. Now, we've talked a lot about AI and marketing, or what AEO and GEO is doing, and the importance of SEO on the site. Google Ads. There might be some people that claim it's not as important because of what's going on with the AEO, and then how some people just are going directly to Claude and Gemini and ChatGPT for the GEO responses.
Mhm.
Where does what level of importance does Google Ads have right now? Where is its place in the shifting marketing landscape we're facing right now?
Yeah, I still believe, and I know many others would agree, that Google Ads still is a very important piece of the marketing puzzle.
Hmm.
Um, I'll just say plainly, like Google Ads, it generates billions of dollars in revenue for Google each
Hmm.
year. So it is highly unlikely that Google would self-sabotage that line of business. Um, with the introduction of their AI overviews.
Sure.
So I think that alone can kind of ease the minds of people that are questioning the efficacy of Google Ads at this point in time. That doesn't mean that the landscape hasn't changed, because it definitely has, with the introduction of AI overviews. I will say that it is more impactful in the information gathering stage, not so much the immediate, when someone's looking for immediate care or an immediate response, for something that they need. I would say that Google Ads is still very much, a very important, tool for that. But it might take someone longer to find out about your center or reach out to your center, because there is more information to be gathered from the AI overview, when they're conducting a search. But if someone needs immediate help, if they need a pregnancy test, if they need an ultrasound to get pregnancy confirmation, it's unlikely that they're going to be reading this long AI overview with information. They're going to be looking for who's ranked high up in the search rankings on the results page. So I would say, yeah, the information gathering stage is more affected by the AI overview itself. But even under the AI overview, you're going to see sponsored ads for Google Ads. So it's a little bit of a hurdle that we have to get over. But again, that's why we're starting to shift strategy and making sure that we have everything in place, making sure we have great SEO, making sure that we have these multiple trust signals that the AI can pull from. Because if you think about it plainly, like the AI overview is trying to give you the best, most authoritative answer. So they're looking for the best, most authoritative source to provide that. So if you're a center with no reviews or poor reviews, that's not going to bode well for you to be in the AI overview. You might show up in the search results under it, which is still a good thing, but we want to take it to the next level. We want to try our very best to get into that overview. So thinking outside of just exclusively paying for ads is what we have to do now.
I know for a while we have been encouraging people whose budget is large enough to do both Google advertising and advanced SEO. And so to be completely transparent to the people listening to this episode, Jack obviously is our digital advertising specialist. He does the Google ads and Meta ads and Snapchat ads and everything ads at Extend. But Tim, as the digital marketing security consultant, we work with him on advanced SEO for our customers. And so I say all that so you guys know, like, yes, these are the guys that work on this. But I think they're the ones that could speak to this the most. Like, it seems like as we're moving forward that, yes, we have said Google ads and ASEO, they go well together, but it sounds like more than ever, those two things might, like, it's, if your budget allows for it, being able to lean into both of those advertising tactics, marketing tactics is effective for the current landscape. Am I reading that correctly?
Yes, I think so. And Tim, I'll let you jump in here as well. But just quickly, thinking about it from the past, so a few years ago, it was very much, if you wanted to run ads, you had to make sure that you had a fantastic website experience, because you can have this great shiny billboard, which are your ads, but then if someone comes into your establishment and it's dark and dingy and it's hard to get around, they're going to leave right away. So, we had to make sure that we had a great website before we decided to spend money on digital advertising. Yeah. And that's kind of the similar scenario that we're in now, where yes, we have to make sure we have a fantastic website with great content, but it's just taking it. There's a few more steps as well, as I mentioned, like making sure that we have, a multi-layered digital advertising presence across other channels, having those local listings, having good reviews, um, having good citations on your website as well. It's just another step that we have to take in order to be successful in our digital ad strategy overall.
Nice. Tim, anything you want to add?
Yeah. Well, I just back up what Jack said there. Something to keep in mind is that Google is obviously a business, and its customers are, yes, it's organizations that are paying for ads and different things like that, but primarily their, customer base, their clients are those searchers or the people that are typing things in the search bar and are being presented with things. So they want to, they want their customers to have the best experience possible. And so they're looking for that. They're looking at, having a good, having a good website presence, having the, the local search stuff, the Google business stuff that Jack's doing, and the ads. It's very similar. They want to make sure that when someone's clicking on an ad, I don't care how effective the ad itself is. They want to make sure that it's going somewhere relevant and is going to provide a good experience. So it's really important to have that holistic approach to things rather than just, oh, I can do this one service and that's going to solve all my problems. You may get benefit from it, of course, but it's really best to allow things to partner together and really tackle the thing from all sides.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And speaking of having like a holistic view, obviously we've been spending some time talking about AEO and GEO and where Google Ads is at in the AI landscape. But I do want to talk about another area that we're seeing AI pop up a lot, and that is with AI generated content. How much does that impact your marketing? Does it have like a positive, negative, net zero impact? What are you guys seeing?
First off, I'll say there's nothing wrong inherently with AI generated content. And even Google themselves have said, they don't penalize AI generated content. What they do penalize is, essentially what we'll call AI slop, you're just feeding topics into an AI, for it to spit out blog posts or any number of things. And you're putting, 5, 10, 15, 20 of those out a day or a week or something like that.
Right.
Google's pretty smart, so they're able to identify, okay, this isn't them being authoritative. This isn't them being trustworthy. This is them just putting out as many things as possible. And in some recent updates, they've really come down hard on that kind of thing where it's, scaled content abuse is the official term for it, where, it's just low value, unoriginal, mass produced content. And even honestly, even if it's human written, if you just have someone, locked in their office, putting out, 20 blogs a day, you get penalized for that. So it's really about the strategy behind it. Google's not going to penalize you for using AI to generate some, blog posts maybe, or some landing page content or some, content on your site. But really it should be, the AI should assist with that, but it really needs to be human owned. So you need to review that. You need to make sure the citations are good. You need to make sure it represents your center, represents the topic well. The human adds that, expertise and fact checking and everything to really make it useful. So it's best to really approach it from that perspective. But I don't want people to be afraid of using AI and think they're going to get, hurt over it.
Yeah. Yeah. And we have talked about that, having, just standards for what images, designs, etc. is going to look like going out from your center. It has been interesting. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but with the World Cup going on right now, have you seen all of the clearly fake videos of certain football or soccer stars talking, and it's usually it's weird because it's usually saying stuff that people want to hear, like, oh, they're being so humble, they're being so whatever. But it kind of there's something as you're watching it, because I've seen a couple of them now, and I just remember I was looking at it, I was like, this person's saying the right things that anybody would want to hear, but you can tell one, they don't always necessarily have emotion on their faces. And two, there just seems like there's something eerie, something out of place. So even that's something to consider when you're doing AI slop is, even if sometimes it looks okay, maybe sounds okay, there can be certain things that are just subconscious triggers or warnings or flags to the person taking in the content. Have you guys seen those videos at all?
Uh, Maybe not necessarily the soccer ones or the football ones,
Yeah.
but I've seen things like that, quite a bit. The amount of videos I've seen of major NBA stars like Magic Johnson and the like talking about how either LeBron or Michael Jordan is the GOAT, and it has them talking for a second, and then it
Right.
goes to some generic B-roll footage, and then they're still talking in the background. You're like, that sounds like them, but I don't know. And they'll make all these wild points and whatnot. Uh it's gotten out of hand for sure. And I think people are catching on, to it a bit. So it is starting to hurt credibility in that regard. So yeah, use it responsibly and use it when you need to. Use it as a tool, not as a
Mhm.
crutch. Use it to
Mhm.
speed up your workflows and speed up your processes, not to literally just take them over fully.
That's true. Jack,
Yeah,
what the?
I agree with what you were saying, Delaney, about standards.
Yeah.
I think that's the key here, because I know I've seen some pretty bad AI slop ads from brands that I really didn't expect to see that from. So it just right away for me that erodes credibility.
Hmm.
Especially in video. I don't think I've seen a very convincing AI video yet where where the dialogue is believable. And yeah, so I think having those standards really matters. I think from an ads perspective, there are tools like image generation tools you can use in Google Ads and Meta and whatnot. I think that those can be helpful um, if you use them in like a stock photo capacity, and you make sure that it looks real as it possibly can. Because there has been that pushback from younger generations as well, where they're able to better
Yes.
identify um, the AI slop and what's been AI generated and whatnot. So just being smart and wise to that, and having setting those standards, I think is super important for this.
Yeah. I I have also like to give AI, the big AI, a credit, like it has advanced so much in the past year. So I'm not saying that it couldn't get to the point where there's like videos and stuff that are coming out and you don't know, but at this point, like there's still some triggers. Like before, if you had it generate a photo of a human, there might be like three eyes. Like one of the eyes is on the elbow and there's like six fingers, and like it was just weird. And now like it's significantly closer to a normal photo. Um, so it's not that it couldn't get there, but just like you said, Jack, the different generations have different reactions to AI, and it's changing. It has changed even since last year. There's all kinds of studies that are coming out. You have Gen Z that's adopted it like crazy. I've heard that millennials adopt it from a productivity sense. Like maybe it's not like Gen Z is being creative. They're using it for solutions. They might be using it to solve problems like, what should I do with this unexpected pregnancy? Millennials, you're seeing them like use it with productivity and stuff. And then you have Gen X and the boomers and everything use it to some degree, but there's different levels of distrust. Even amongst Gen Z, there's sometimes a growing level of distrust. And so that's just the one final thing, not to talk too much about this, but that's the other thing is like, just make sure you're using it well. You're using it with integrity. Um, you're not making up stories about clients or something, because you not only have on the front end, if somebody sees something and it's not done well, they might lose trust right then. But if they really connect with something and then find out that it's AI generated, there might be some loss of trust there as well. So it's just, you know, have standards for your organization, be consistent, have integrity. And I know, Tim, this is something that you have thought a lot about. I know you have like touched on a good amount of it here, but as we're wrapping up, is there anything else you want to say on that subject of how to like using it responsibly and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think this can be a good chance to point back to last month's episode where we really did
Hmm.
talk about using AI responsibly from a security and privacy standpoint. But
Sure.
it, I think just to echo what Jack said, there are folks that immediately see the AI stuff and, the AI slop as most people are referring to it now. And it's not only something that's makes you sometimes look a little, it discredits you a little bit from a professional standpoint, but it can actually almost, villainize you with a lot of folks. The
Right.
Gen Z and millennials to a degree are really the most creative generations as far as, the amount of tools and the amount of things that they've been able to get into and create and allow what's, in their mind to be expressed, digitally and whatnot is wild. And so there's a lot of offense and worry coming with AI taking over some of those things, taking over
Right.
graphic design and videography. I struggled with that. I mean, I was a graphic designer and videographer for forever. And, I'm a programmer and AI is really excelling those areas. And so,
Yeah.
there's even a little bit of threat, in my, heart sometimes, that I have to wrestle with. So yeah, treat it responsibly and go at it with a strategy in place that is AI assists, doesn't own, doesn't, have final say. You are in control of it. So, make sure you're maintaining that and you are the subject matter expert on your own center, on your own, clientele and your processes and whatnot. So don't let the AI, go with something and you just be like, oh, okay, cool. That sounds good. Make sure that you are being the authority on it and directing it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Well, guys, thank you so much for jumping on here. Thank you, Tim, for coming back on another episode. And thank you, listeners, for sticking around. If you have any questions, if there's any topics you're wanting us to hit in future episodes, shoot us an email at support@extendwebservices.com. Thanks, guys.